Traditional media is dead. You are watching or listening to this for free on your phone, tablet, or PC. I wrote it, produced it, and I'm presenting it to you right now. And anyone can pick up a camera, press record, and put it out to the entire world. So why do we still need boring old traditional media? For bigger budget shows, we have countless streaming services. Sure, they cost money, but you get quality on demand. No ad breaks, no waiting for the next episode, and there's so much choice. And news? We get that from social media. We now have so much content at our fingertips, there simply isn't a need for traditional media anymore. Except there is. And without it, society could collapse. Let me explain. This is Refracted World. My first job was in television and radio production. I just left school and was the winning candidate for the position of runner, which is by far the worst job in TV. You are at the bottom rung of the ladder and get treated as such. But I didn't care. I was young, the industry excited me, and I absorbed every bit of information I could. I learned quickly, and just 18 months later, I was the writer and director of a light entertainment show for ITV. I was the youngest director in the country, but that never fazed me. I loved what I did, and I was good at it, reeling in over 1 million viewers every week. Of course, I wasn't alone in this task. There were a team of people all around me who also made it happen. Researcher, producer, camera operator, sound operator, editor, and of course, the presenter. As this was an independent production company, we were making many shows for different channels, which were overseen by the exec producer. Fast forward to today, and traditional media is dying. Younger generations prefer to consume digital media and pay little attention to what the mainstream is pumping out. YouTube is the world's leading streaming service, and the vast majority of content is created by, well, you, hence the name. And here's the rub. Working in TV, I got paid a salary to do one specific job. On YouTube, I do all the jobs, and I'm at risk of never getting paid at all. Audiences may prefer to watch content online and demand the very best quality, but they don't want to pay for it. Skipping an advert after 5 seconds may be annoying, but it's not the same as having to sit through 5 minutes of adverts or paying a subscription to Netflix. But this isn't a strong enough argument as to why we should keep traditional media, and it's certainly not a reason to use a clickbaity sentence like societal collapse. But I wasn't being hyperbolic. Without mainstream media, we would lose accountability and trust. A lot of people get their news now from social media. Let's say Fred Blogs has a daily news roundup on all the socials. You like Fred, he's young, attractive, and says things in a way you understand. But where is Fred getting his news from? At the moment, he's getting it from traditional media. He's just taking stories, condensing them, and making them understandable. You can learn about the basics of any subject in under a minute. It's not the whole story, but you get the gist, and that's enough for you. But what if Fred has his own agenda and likes to portray news stories in a way that fit his political views or his way of thinking? Maybe he's being paid to sway the public opinion one way or the other. Perhaps he emphasises the small things but omits the big things to fit his narrative. Who's to stop him? He is a single content creator who answers to no one. Of course, we can simply go online and check the story for ourselves, but many don't. They listen to Fred and believe what he says, and they may share that video for more people to learn about Fred's version of the truth until it becomes bigger and more widely accepted than the actual truthful news story. At the moment, traditional media is held up to a lot of scrutiny. Before publishing or reporting on a story, they have to make sure what they're saying is factual. There are teams of researchers and legal representatives in place for this reason. Before a newspaper like The Guardian can do an expose, they have to jump through a lot of hoops before publishing that story. Because if they are found to be wrong, they will be sued, and no company wants to run the risk of that. Therefore, their journalism is as truthful as possible. Of course, even trusted resources can have their own agendas. The Guardian is known to be more left-leaning, while the tabloids lean more to the right, but they are still held up to accountability. This video isn't sponsored, but I have an app called Ground News, and what it does, it takes every single news story on the left and the right, puts them all into the app, and shows you where on the spectrum they land, and then gives you a balanced narrative from the collection of those stories. I've had it for a few months, and I've found it to be invaluable. Without traditional media, there is no accountability. It's very easy to say a trusted resource can't be trusted, but they are called trusted resources for a reason. Are there mistakes from time to time? Of course, but they are almost always publicised, and legal procedures are put into place to make sure they don't happen again. There are repercussions. There is nothing like this for a single content creator. Anyone could start a news channel right now and pump out whatever stories they want, factual or not. If they presented them in a clear and understandable way, some people would believe and share those stories. And if the creator is ever exposed as being a liar, nothing would happen to them. They could simply say it was satire or for entertainment purposes only. There are no repercussions and no one to stop the spread of misinformation. Now imagine this happening in a world without traditional media. No live TV, no news channels, no newspapers. Everything we consume is digital on social media. We already know anyone can say whatever they want, but now we have no way to fact check what is being said or how it's being presented. We may get announcements from our governments, but no one trusts them anyway. Misinformation would freely flow and spread far and wide, with every single opinion presented as fact. And the one that aligns best with your own thoughts and opinions would be the one you follow. Social media is already full of opinions, beliefs and hot takes, not all of which are based on fact. Of course, they can be really compelling and even sound plausible, but without real evidence to back them up, they can be harmful and used as a manipulation tactic. We need to question everything and be conscious to only disseminate the truth. This situation is made far worse with the integration of AI. We are already inundated with bot accounts and comments on all platforms, and it's getting increasingly difficult to tell who is real and who is not. In a world without traditional media, AI could be our only trusted source. But how much can we really trust AI? Deepfake videos could be shared showing a major catastrophe that's not really happening. Worldviews could be challenged and elections swayed by compelling misinformation. We also need to question the reliability of AI. If it learns from what it reads online, and if the bulk of that reading is misinformation, ChatGPT could be telling us Shakespeare is the president of Argentina. With an infected AI, it would make fact-checking near impossible. Before modern technology, misinformation spread like wildfire and was believed by the masses because it was their only source of information. The general public received their news from governments and religious leaders who had their own agendas and answered to no one. We had no reason to question what we were being told, as it came from people in positions of immense power. Surely they were only looking after the common good, right? This is how non-whites were seen as inferior and enslaved. This is how women were tried as witches, and this is how millions of people were killed in gas chambers. Now imagine what would happen in today's society. Everyone is on social media, everyone has access to their own platform, and anyone could decide what the news is according to their own beliefs and agendas. And they answer to no one. And this dark dystopian future isn't just some science fiction storyline. This reality has already begun. A tragic event recently took place in England, causing misinformation and lies to flood social media. Stoked by the rich and powerful, this fanned the flames of violence, racism and rioting all across the UK. People and businesses unrelated to the tragedy were targeted, threatened and attacked, with widespread reports of criminal damage. Even when the truth was revealed, the lies and misinformation continued on social media, and misplaced hatred and bigotry kept people rioting. Anti-fascism protests, far outnumbering the rioters, formed in aid to stand with and protect the innocent people who were being targeted. But how would this have played out if the truth had not been revealed? or simply wasn't accessible. The BBC is a trusted, long-standing British institution and tries to always provide balance and neutrality. Yet you wouldn't know this if you spend all your time on social media. Defund the BBC is regularly trending. The BBC lies and can't be trusted is under every video they post, and in the past year, 500 million people have stopped paying their licence fee, with millions more saying they no longer want to pay it. They argue that people shouldn't be made to pay for something they don't use, but I would argue that most people do use it, or at least benefit from it in some way. The countless TV and radio stations, and their 24/7 news and sports coverage is all without adverts, and all of their shows can be watched on demand on the BBC's streaming service. All of this is included in the annual licence fee, which works out to be around £14 a month. I pay more than that just for Netflix, and yet the BBC is under real threat of closing down because younger generations don't see the value of it. And it's not just the BBC, it's all mainstream media. The other channels may get their revenue from adverts, but if everyone stops watching TV, who will advertise with them? And once you lose live TV and radio, you lose access to live news coverage as well. Added to that is people don't read newspapers anymore. And if the trusted news sources are no longer trusted and they too disappear, you're left in a world with no fact-checking and no accountability for anything anyone says. But if we do ultimately decide that traditional media is dead, we must first replace it with something equally as responsible. Our society needs impartial pillars of trust and accountability. Otherwise, we risk going back to a time when the people and organisations with the biggest platforms decide our collective fates. Pitting us against each other is what the rich and powerful have always done. Manipulation keeps us under their control and them at the top. And we know from history that this never benefits anyone other than those pulling the strings. It is easy to disagree with something or be outraged at someone, especially today where there's so much rage bait available online. But diving for the cancel button with little to no context will only ever backfire on us. Sometimes long-running institutions need tearing down, others need replacing, and sometimes they just need fixing. What we do now will have consequences for everyone in the very near future. And if we do enter a world without trust, after a time of chaos, I believe it could end the internet as we know it. Imagine a decade of rioting, fighting, high crime rates and mass incarceration. Eventually we'll come to our senses and realise what the catalyst was. And when you can no longer trust anything you see online, we would stop using it. And then what? Especially if we'd already gotten rid of TV. Oh, it's a good job we still have books. Mine are available on Amazon right now, by the way. I know we live in a digital world, but it doesn't mean anything older than Google is bad. I'm older than Google. Don't say a word. Just because something is older than you or has been around for a while doesn't mean it should automatically be cancelled. There is a need for traditional mainstream media, and there likely always will be. Traditional and social media work together in ways you might not have known about until this video. We need trusted sources, now more than ever, because without trust and evidence-based facts, we run the risk of falling into a world of chaos, and eventually ending social media altogether. Then how will you remember your friends' birthdays? Thankfully, we don't live in that world yet, so everything I ever talk about can be looked up, researched, and fact-checked online. Don't just trust someone because they can articulate well. Never forget, we live in a world where the entire compendium of human knowledge is available at our fingertips, and it's totally free. When I worked in TV, I was the director and writer and was paid a salary. Now I'm performing every single role, buying all the equipment and software, and not getting paid at all. But I am committed to producing well-researched, professional, and engaging content, and all I ask in return is for you to please spend a few seconds liking, commenting on, and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. All of this really does help. Thank you. For anyone looking for merch, check out the link in the bio. There are always new designs landing on my Etsy store when I have time to design them. Until next time, take care, Sapiens, and goodbye.